So how are you liking the new 2.0? How, yeah, you've been up and running for a few weeks now?
Yeah, we've been using the 2.0 forums for like 3 weeks, maybe
Yeah,
almost 4 weeks. But having the 1.0, we were still getting people doing the 1.0 form and then trying to take it over. And 2.0, it was a little messy, but now that we don't have it, they only have one option, which is really good.
perfect. Awesome. Yeah, we just launched the redesign as well, so now it looks super clean.
Yeah, and it looks like FUB did a update as well. So they have now more fields, custom fields in the deal stage.
We
We
probably
may
need
have to
some
make some
updates.
adjustments.
Yeah, we're gonna add those as primary fields. It'll get pre-mapped. Probably need a couple weeks on that, and then we
Yeah,
can. I mean, we could always just add the fields as custom fields and then map them. I think it'll be a little cleaner if we get the primary fields up and running.
right, right.
So we'll give a couple more minutes for everyone to hop on. Appreciate everyone being here. How long have you been coaching with Cheplak?
Almost 2 years. I primarily do a lot of coaching within the Reside community. And so I've
Okay,
been doing that since the beginning of the year. So I've got, I think, 9 or 10 teams that I coach, and we do a couple coaching calls each month. So it's a lot of fun.
awesome. Yeah, it's so much easier figuring all this stuff out if you're just learning from somebody else who's already done it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get to pay for you get to pay to avoid hopefully the catastrophes that we went through to get there. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Avoid making those same mistakes. All right, we'll give another minute. Still have a few people trickling in. Let me hear. Let's make sure we have. Looks like the chat is working. Do we have the question Q&A?
Yes, yes, we do.
Perfect. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm gonna share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
I got you.
Awesome. All right. So, optimizing follow boss with Cheplak and Reside coach Chris Snow. So, first, thanks from Interface. Really appreciate everyone being here. Appreciate your time hopping on in the middle of your Thursday afternoon. And also, thank you from Chris Snow. If you're interested in his coaching services, you can reach out to him at chris@floridacoastalteam.com. So, what you'll learn on this call, how interface embedded web forms work within Follow Boss, how interface forms can automate everything that needs to happen within Follow Boss, and how interface forms have been set up within the Florida Coastal Team's Follow Boss account. So probably going to be 30, 45 minutes. We'll stick around after the presentation as long as necessary to answer any questions. Go ahead and type your questions in either the chat or the Q&A section. Get out your notepad, start writing stuff down, action items, and this is being recorded. We'll be sending it out probably early next week. So before we dive into it, who am I? Why should you guys listen to anything I have to say? I started my career as a real estate agent back in 2007. Best time ever to get into real estate. When the market collapsed, I actually transitioned to playing online poker professionally. I was living on the beach down in Mexico. You can see my office here. It was best office ever. Poker is actually a very similar skill set to data science and analytics. You're just mining data and analyzing statistics. After I stopped playing poker, I started learning how to code in Python and SQL and AWS and ended up getting hired as a database manager for the top selling real estate team in San Diego back in 2017. And then a couple years later, I started Interface as an automation and integration solution for Follow Up Boss. And so what does Interface do? We're an automation as a service platform similar to like Zapier, but built specifically for Follow Up Boss. Our focus is keeping agents in Follow Up Boss and building customizations that force them to do what they're supposed to do and prevent them from messing everything up. Recently, we partnered with Kyle Whistle, the top team at EXP, to build out our analytics platform that is in the process of being launched, and we're going to have some pretty awesome updates by the end of Q4. Quick product roadmap, our analytics platform. Right now, it is available in beta to any of our form users. Eventually, we're going to have goals and challenges and leaderboards and ROI reports. But right now, we do have some pretty good reporting based on the forms being submitted. The next thing we're going to be launching is our conversion ratio. This is what we have up and running right now, which is like a data table that you could build out and save different reports. Conversion ratios are what's coming next, and the goal is to have goals by the end of Q4. So anybody who wants to do their goal setting can do that in our platform for 2026. And then our automation platform is our other product. This allows you to automate virtually anything within Follow Up Boss. We have a lot of automation triggers that don't exist in Follow Up Boss. We can trigger automation if when text messages are sent, when calls are logged, when people are updated, and when deals are updated. So if specific fields on the lead or deal is updated, we can trigger automation, emails, notes, appointments, property inquiries. And so this allows us to automate a lot of stuff. We can make smart list work a lot better. We can do automated agent accountability and anything else you can think of. So it's pretty awesome. So who's excited to see a demo? Go ahead and type yes into the chat and we will dive into it. All right. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you now. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. You want me to go ahead and open up my screen, share my screen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me pull this up and Daniel, the one thing when we use forms, prior to coming to Interface, we used a very simple Google form. And I know a lot of team leaders use Google Forms because, most of us are using Google as a platform to manage your email, the Google Drive, the whole G Suite of services. And
Yep.
so, using forms in there was just a way to have a questionnaire, either go out to a customer or internally to be able to get support and services. And so for us, for probably 6 or 7 years, we were using just a simple Google form. When a new property would go under contract, they'd go into our pending form, they'd fill out the information. Based on all that information, we were able to put it into the systems that we needed in order to track the business, to be able to start closing coordination and kind of give us that roadmap of where we at in the process on that closing. When I first saw Interface and I saw someone had an embedded form, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I don't have to actually have a separate system and now have all that information residing on a Google spreadsheet that the team really doesn't have access to. And so when we started having those conversations, you guys kind of opened up my eyes that, hey, there are a lot more forms that we can be using to drive our business. And so it went from just going, I just need a pending form to, hey, I want to set an appointment and I want to disposition that the outcome of that appointment. And I
Mhm.
would say that most team leaders have kind of that same issue where, you want your database to be as close to a true reflection of what's going on in your business as you can. It's never going to be 100%, but it's, can you get it pretty close? And
Yep.
I would say for us, one of the bigger challenges was like we would get that pending form in. We would start working on the closing. I would go back and I would look at our pendings that were showing in Follow Up Boss, and someone had not changed the stage for that particular customer. They were just still showing them in a different stage. And
Yep.
so anytime you were trying to pull information from Follow Up Boss, it was up to the user or up to the closing coordinator to make sure that all of that stuff changed. Then we would get to the point where we're checking our pendings and we're saying, oh, wow, we got 50 pendings showing in Follow Up Boss. And then we look at our tracking software and we're like, oh, no, like 20 of those have canceled out. But inside of Follow Up Boss, the stage never changed. So we
Yep.
canceled the contract. The customer's still showing under contract, but they're no longer under contract. And
Yep.
so, that's where the sticking point comes. That's where those frustrations come in. So, and just having a chance to chat with you guys, like I said, it just opened up our eyes that anytime we want our team to request services from us, in the past, we would just come in, we got Peter Parker here, and we would tag our operations person and say, hey, can you do this, this, and this? I need this listing package. I need this done. Okay, for better or for worse, if someone came in and they forgot to actually tag the person and they just made a note,
Yep.
the coordinator doesn't get it, right? Unless she's
Yeah.
actually in that record. We moved it over into an embedded form. And so now we have the embedded form with the interface 2.0. And so for us, all we're going to do, if let's just say we're going to book an appointment. Right now, I see that this person's in lead stage, which means that they're getting automations and any emails that have to be with someone that we have never had a conversation with. We don't know who they are, and we're just trying to get them to reach out. If I want to take that person and now create an opportunity, I'm going to say they're either a buyer or a seller. In this case, I'm going to say that they're a buyer. And then I'm going to choose what buyer forms do I have? Do I want to just add them to my pipeline? Do I want to set an appointment? Once I've set an appointment, do I want to go back and disposition that? And I can do that as a text message and do it right from my phone, or I can actually come right back into the form. Or did I get a buyer brokerage agreement signed? So I'm just going to say, hey, look, we're going to go ahead and set an appointment for this person. The form comes in. Who was it set by? Was it set by an ISA or was it an OSA? I'm setting it for myself, so I'm the OSA. And then I'm going to choose myself in the list. And then all I'm going to do is start putting in the dates, all the stuff that I already know. I'm going to do an appointment. It's going to be this afternoon. It's going to be at 5 p.m. And what's the duration? I'm going to go an hour. Where's the location? I'm either going to meet at my office, Zoom, inquiry address. So I'm just going to say it's going to be by Zoom because we love Zoom appointments. And then the appointment type, I'm going to do a buyer consultation. It's actually going to be a Zoom call. So that's my appointment type. And all of these you guys actually pulled directly from our Follow Up Boss appointment types and appointment types and outcomes. And then I would enter my Zoom link that I'm going to do on that appointment and anything else that happens to go with this. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that whenever this is now put in here, and we will discuss the map of St. Augustine, Florida. Okay. And then now I'm just giving a little bit of information about the buyer itself. And have they been pre-approved? Yes. Inquiry address. I'm just going to do test, 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 and additional info. None. And now I'm going to submit that. And now some automation is going to happen. The form has now been pinned. It's now a note right within Follow Up Boss. I should have gotten an email from this confirming that appointment. The appointment is now set within Follow Up Boss. A new deal is created. And now I've got a way to start tracking this person. And now my stage is now moved to appointment set. And depending on what you have set up for any sort of automation, some of our stages, when either the FUB stage changes or the deal stage over here changes, we have some additional automation that goes out. So like if we were to move this to a pending, the person would start getting information and emails, things that we want them to know about what it's like to be under contract, what to expect next. And it's all those things that you have the opportunity to create automations to start. They only work if people are using the right stages and using the right Follow Up Boss stages and being able to, in this particular case, track off of appointments. So that's what I've loved is that it's made it super simple that instead of me having to come over and do 3 different things after already creating an appointment anyway. So if I were just creating an appointment just in FUB, I had to do all those things anyway, or
Yep.
most of them. And so just a couple of extra clicks, I got more information and more stuff is done for me. And we take the guesswork out of, what stage should it be? The agent
Yep.
doesn't have to worry about moving something. So that's what our appointment set and what each of these individual forms will end up doing.
Yeah, yeah. And what's awesome about the forms is you can require certain fields be submitted. And so then you know that your automation is going to run correctly because the fields that the different automation is dependent on is going to get filled out. Where, as you, like you mentioned before, if you're relying on a agent to remember to mention the TC in a note, that's only going to happen some percent of the time, less than 100%.
Correct.
And when you require it on the form, you know it's going to happen every single time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so now if I need to disposition this, so we've gone on the appointment.
Yeah.
And normally I would have that text message. I don't even have to come right back in here, but you guys send the text message. I click on that text message, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to disposition this buyer, and I'm going to fill out the form.
And to clarify that for everyone, so when the appointment form is submitted, we schedule a text to go out to the assigned agent after the appointment, and you could set up multiple reminder texts. So if they don't fill it out the first time, you can have a backup text go the next day, which will be a link to the form that says what happened on the appointment. And so it's the same form you're looking at right now. They would just fill out on their phone.
And so I'm going to go in and say, did this happen? Yes, no, or rescheduled. Those are really my only options, right? So I would say, yeah, it absolutely happened. We met today. And then what was the outcome? And again, these are the outcomes directly, the ones that we felt like we wanted to be tracking in Follow Up Boss. You guys pulled those directly over. Since this is a buyer, it's a BBA signed. And any notes, I've just may put ready to purchase when they find the right home. All right, so now that's going to get added as a note. And what are the steps? Next, nothing. And I'm just going to submit that form over. And then you should see that pop in here. And then we have these set up so that whenever these forms are completed, they're actually going to our entire administrative team. So we use one email address. It's a group email, admin at Florida Coastal Team. And that goes to me, our sales director, our director of growth, our closing coordinator, our listing coordinator, and our virtual assistants. So that way, I don't have to determine who needs to see it. If they need to see it, they're going to get it. And obviously, if we want to drill down and have a bunch of different emails, we can certainly do that. But we try to make it simple and just have one email address that's going out to the appropriate group. But everybody gets notified of the email, so they don't even have to go into Follow Up Boss to see what happened. So my sales director, he can now look and go, oh, great. Now we've got someone that we need to be tracking. We got a buyer agreement signed, which means we're a little bit closer to getting some hopefully some revenue. Now, what you'll see is that on this, you can see this section here was the type of appointment, and now the outcome is right underneath there. So when you start tracking your metrics of how many appointments do I need to go on and how many, what's the outcome? Did I win the appointment? Did I not win the appointment? When agents are filling out the form, they don't have to worry about telling us what happened in the appointment section itself. The form will actually drive that for them, which helps us with our metrics to be able to go back at the end of the year, end of the quarter, and now help coach them to what their individual metrics are. And then as you see over here, the deal stage, let me update, refresh.
Yep, that's it, Matt.
So appointment met and buyers, it should be moving this over to deal stage. It should end up moving this over into buyer contract. And if it doesn't, we'll get with me here to make that update. And then over in this section, again, with the appointment set, this will end up driving and moving that over to appointment. That should end up going over into our appointment met, either future opportunity. With this one, I noted that they signed off, so it should end up moving over to an active customer.
And then it redirected, since it was a agreement signed, it automatically went to the next form that needed to be submitted, which was the agreement signed form. I think we're going to skip that form and go straight to pending though.
Okay, yep. So once I bring this over and I want to go to pending, and that might be why I didn't switch everything over, is I didn't fill out the form completely.
So it went to met when the met form, the disposition form was submitted, then it redirected to the agreement signed form. And so I think that form would have needed to be submitted to have the
Kick off. Yep. So our next stage at that point is now they're out going looking at property. They can still go back in and book individual appointments for multiple showings using the same formula, and it keeps their stage in the right stage, and they can continue to set multiple appointments with that buyer without it changing the stage until they're ready to change the stage, which our next one would be our pending buyer form. And with this, I'm either going to choose, if this was already an active pending, I can cancel that pending, but I'm going to keep this as a transaction. And it's either a new construction, we're referring this out. I'm just going to say it's a regular transaction. I'm going to go ahead and put into the address here, St. Augustine, Florida. And then, so these are all the questions that we personally said, these are the things that we need to know about every transaction that comes in. What's the important one? How much are we making? What's our actual percentage that we're making? What's the effective date that the contract takes place? And then let's go ahead and get our closing date out there, quick closing. And again, all these red dots are required. So we do not allow them to skip these sections because we absolutely need to do these. Lead source, we just have our folks go ahead and copy and paste whatever is showing in Follow Up Boss. So that way our metrics and our tracking is correct. For us, we want to know if they are SOI for an agent. Where did that SOI come from? We have our transaction fee automatically loaded in there. So if you guys do a transaction fee, they can just have that input in there. So it's always in there. Seller paid closing costs. I'm going to put in this one. No, we're not going to have any seller paid closing costs. Pop her down there. If you have multiple transaction coordinators, this is where you would have the opportunity to choose which one. I'm not paying out a referral fee, and I don't have an ISA on that one. Is there an agent on the other side of the transaction? I'm going to put, yes, someone outside our team. When you do that, it actually opens up some additional questions that weren't there before. And I'm just going to get through these and
Yeah, and so we could do dynamic logic. So if a field equals this, then show these other fields. That way, your agents are only seeing the fields that are relevant, because in Follow Boss, it's just a big list of fields. Whether you're looking at custom fields on the lead or custom fields on the deal, it's just a big list of fields. There's no way for the agents to know what to fill out. And so we can map any of the data from the form to any of the fields in Follow Boss. So we can make sure to put the data where it needs to go, and the agents aren't confused on what they need to fill out.
there you go. Yep. And so in this case, we're going to tell them what type of loan. In this case, I'm going to say cash, title company. Here's our preferred. If you've got a title company you work with all the time, they can just build that right in there. So, you don't have to keep adding their information over and over again. For us, we want to know where's the paperwork. It's in our dot loop and it's in our Google Drive. Any notes about the contract itself. So if there's something a little different than a traditional transaction. Maybe there's a post occupancy that needs to happen. Maybe there's some additional closing costs, maybe contingent upon the sale of another property. We would put those in there because we want our administrative team to know what are the things that we need to be looking at during this conversation itself. And so again, we got right in there, and you could put all that example of what might be in there. And then the last thing is we will take a link to our Google Drive folder and make sure that is in there. And then when you hit submit, it doesn't like the dashes. As soon as I hit submit, again, the automation is going to go in place. You'll see the form gets filled out. This gets emailed to our transaction coordinator. So when she's looking at, she can actually print this right out if she wants, whatever tracking software you guys might be using with that. But we just built all the things that we knew that we needed to fill out in our tracking software so that we had all the bits of data. And it takes the agent, as you saw, maybe a minute or two to fill the form out. But this form saves our closing coordinator probably 30 to 45 minutes of time searching through the contract to get these specific details. As you can see, that opportunity now has the address up here. It has the pending stage. Now I'm in pending in my deals. So that's moved over. And now you'll see my stage is under contract, and you'll start to see that there's automations that are now going out, sending emails to this customer, basically congratulating them for being under contract, what to expect next. And over the next couple of days, while they're in that inspection periods, it's just all the things that we want to tell the customer that a lot of times we fail to, we forget to, we get busy. We have the emails going out, and those are driven by the phone deal and the deal stage. And because the agent's not responsible, or my closing coordinator is not responsible for manually making those changes or adding tags, by just filling out the form, it does what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. It just takes all the guesswork out.
Yep. And the cool thing is that again, this is one of those things that we want to be real time with our team, with with everything that's happening. And so here was able to build a Zap so that when we have a new contract that's filled out, a new pending or a new listing, we have it where it automatically puts a post out on our Slack channel and it congratulates the person, gives a little detail about it. So that way our agents are getting recognized and rewarded right away when they fill these forms out.
Exactly. So it builds that habit. That little bit of celebration definitely helps. And so glad you mentioned the Slack automation. So, we could send data into a lot of other platforms. Our system can send webhooks into Zapier. So anything that Zapier can connect to, we can send the data. So Slack, we can send it into a spreadsheet. We have document upload fields where you could load documents and then we could add those documents to like Google Drive. The plan is we're working on a SkySlope integration now. We plan on doing a dot loop integration in Q1. So then we'll have a field on the form where you can search your transactions in dot loop, select the dot loop transaction, and it'll pull all the data into the form. So anything that's already in dot loop, you won't have to re-enter on the form if you've already entered it in a dot loop. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We'll be able to potentially pull documents out of dot loop and move them into Google Drive. So it'll definitely automate a few more steps for you once that's up and running.
Yeah. And so again, for us, the biggest thing is that we know where people are in the process based on their deal stage or in their FUB stage, and we know that 95 to 99% of the time now it's accurate, especially if they filled out one form at all that gets on our radar, and now we know that we've got something that we can be tracking. And hey, I love our team. They're going to miss opportunities, so they may miss something and not put the original appointment that they were going on, and so they just go right into the form and they skip to whatever stage they're actually in now. So if they didn't log the appointment, they didn't have to disposition anything, but they got their buyer brokerage agreement signed, they can go right into BBA signed, and then that'll create the deal stage and the FUB stage right where they're at. Again, if they miss that part and they go right to pending, right? They just woke up one day and now the buyer is in pending, they can start the stage right then and there. So it doesn't matter where you start, you can have that stage pick up at any stage of the process.
Because as we all know, for an agent with their sphere of influence, sometimes you don't hear about that until it's pending. And so you can start it from any stage. The system's very flexible. This is the Florida coastal team's stages, but there's no set in stone stages that you need to use. Our forms can be associated with any follow-up pipeline and stage. And so if you have a unique sales process or if you want to have a set of forms for referring deals out, and so you have like a referral pipeline to track your referrals, or if you do lending and you want to track your mortgage pipeline, very flexible. It could be used for anything.
Yeah, and like you say at the beginning, it opened up our minds to like, what forms could we add to do everything? And think about everything that we have people creating notes inside of FUB to alert people to do certain things. And so a big thing is on our listing side, we've got multiple different stages. We have an initial appointment set, but with that, our agent needs support. Our listing coordinator gets notified and they're just telling like, hey, what do I need to have done? I need a dot loop created. I need a package filled out. Here's the price point that the listing's going to be in. So all these things that they would normally be tagging and putting in a note for our coordinator, when do I need the appointment? When's the latest I need to pick up the package? All of those things are right in the form. And so there is no guesswork as to someone's going on a listing appointment. When do I need to have this information back to them so that they could go on that appointment? Once they go on that appointment and they get the listing agreement signed, now, okay, what do they need? When do the photos need to be? What listing package did they choose?
Yeah.
So think through those things of all those questions that you're asking your agents once they get to a certain stage with a buyer or seller, and just put it in a form and then have that to drive everything that's going to happen with your follow-up boss.
And because the way it's normally done in most teams is a back and forth nightmare between the agent and the listing coordinator. So agent gets a listing, they send the listing coordinator the absolute bare minimum info to get started, and then the listing coordinators sending an endless stream of emails trying to extract the rest of the data. And so by having a form, it requires the agent of just putting it all down at once. They're not going to like it, but it is going to save them and the listing coordinator a lot of time. And so just it's peeling the band-aid off all at once. And now everyone can go, agent can go back to getting the next listing, and the listing coordinator can have all the info they need to do their job and not have to painfully extract it from the agent. So it looks like Nancy has a question. So they can upload the buyer contract. We do have document upload forms, so it'll load the contract. It'll send the contract to whoever it needs to go to. The long-term plan is we're going to build some AI into it that'll actually pull data from the contracts. So eventually, what you'll be able to do is any of the data that's on the contract, you'll be able to load the contract, it'll extract the data and populate all the fields with the data from the contract. Then they don't need to enter, most of the fields on the form will be entered for them just by extracting the data from the contract. So we're planning on building that over the next, ideally 6 months, but sometime next year, we'll have that contract AI in place.
And
And
so,
for
yeah,
dot-loop teams, we'll be able to pull the contract from dot-loop, read the data from it, and then populate the form. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
yeah, we're looking forward to it. Anything that keeps us inside of FUB as long as we possibly can without having to leave it makes it a lot more efficient for us. And, as much as anything, when you start having your agents go outside of FUB, they're probably not going to go look for stuff. But if all of a sudden this stuff is being added into FUB and its notes are being added, things are happening automatically, that at least gives the agent an alert that something's happening on that file, something's happening with that particular customer.
Yeah. And we all know it's challenging enough to get them to go into Follow Boss. Follow Boss is great, super intuitive, but getting them in that platform is challenging enough. So having them go into multiple platforms is just painful. Ms. Gold, appreciate everyone being here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel. God bless.
Have a good one.